Good evening. Have you ever wanted to make quick multi-line edits in Vim? I have finally, last week, taken the time to wrap one of my favorite custom Vim interactions into a plugin, and I am super excited about it, and I can't wait to share it with you. The plugin revolves completely around a native Vim interaction called the normal command, and actually the plugin itself is just a wrapper around that command. So if you don't mind doing some extra typing, you could just do this manually and you don't need a plugin. So to give you some background, I'm first going to show you how the normal command works, and then we'll go from there. So what the normal command does is it basically runs a sequence of keys, strokes from normal movement in Vim. So for example, if I sit here on line 14 and I type normal or norm, doesn't matter, and I say I want to find the square brackets and I want to delete in the square brackets, then it will do that. I can also say, for example, I want to, on lines 14 plus 13, I want to run normal find square braces, delete in square braces, and it will do that on all the lines. Because it is not able to find the square braces on all lines, it will terminate on the lines that don't have any. The next part would be to show you how to run a G command. So a G command is basically taking a search field, for example, we can take run in this case, and running a Vim command against all lines matching that search. For example, I can then do run, and I could do that on all run lines. I want to norm find square braces, delete in square braces. And because I didn't specify a line range, G by default runs on all lines of the file. So it matches all lines in the file that has run, and it deletes in the square braces. Another thing I could do is I could say I want to see specifically all the run commands. Then the v command is very useful. So the v search basically says do this on all lines that don't match the query. So I could say that for all lines that don't match run, I want to normal mode. Of course, there are faster ways to do this, but I'm showing the normal command now. I can type dd, and it will leave me with all lines that have run in them in some way. So I can quickly see what's happening. I can just undo that to get back to where I was. One problem with the normal mode command, if you just run it, for example, if I run, the way to best demonstrate this would be if I add a couple lines here and I say I do, want to say something like temp 1 here, and then we're quickly just gonna increment these. And if I now wanted to run the normal command from here, norm, say 1 colon plus 3, norm, and then I want to, or say plus 1. So basically lines 1 and 2, we want to dd. Then you will notice that it didn't actually remove lines 1 and 2, it removed lines 1 and 3, because it is not smart about the fact that if you do a change in the previous normal command that removes or adds a line, then it won't understand that you did that. So then it will create undefined behavior. Basically, you will not get your desired outcome. So the way to get around that would be to still run a G command. So if I would do the same thing, 1 plus 1, and then G, and it will match everything, and we'll say norm dd, then that will do the right thing, except of course it's annoying because it now searched across the entire file. So you can run keep patterns like this, and then you can run the same thing. So 1 plus 1, and then we're gonna do G, and then we're gonna match everything, and we're gonna normal mode delete, and then you get the same behavior, except it doesn't put it then in the search history, which is very handy. But that's a lot of typing to do a 2-line change. And so this is where we get to my plugin that I made. I've decided to call it vim-peculiar. This link, I'll put this in the video description. The goal of the plugin is basically to provide these 4 mappings: peculiar V, peculiar G, and R. And they map exactly to the commands I just described. So N is the normal command with key patterns example I just gave. G is doing a G command, V is doing a V command, and then I've added the utility R, which basically runs a repeat. Once you have this installed, you need to also configure some bindings. In my case, I have set it up so that my local leader is mapping to these 4 commands, basically V to V, G to G, etc. The whole point of this plugin is that now, instead of having to do the matching of lines, I can now simply go here into this function, for example, and do the N command, which I map to local leader N, or in spacebar N, and I can say in here now, in paragraph, and you can see at the bottom that it calculated the lines for me. And then I could do the same thing we did previously, which is to find the square braces and delete the square braces. And so that saved me a lot of typing. I can do the same thing with the G commands. I could do space G in my case, in the paragraph, match run, and then in that we're gonna find the square braces and delete the square braces, and do that only for this function. And then I have the peculiar R mapping, which means I could go down now to this function down here and say I want to repeat in this paragraph, and then it did the same change down here. And I can go down here and press dot, and it will run it here. But in this case there wasn't actually any run in this file. There are no more in this file. But if I undo and I go down here and I press dot, you can see it runs the command. Due to some funkiness with Vim script I haven't yet been able to solve, you can only repeat on the vim repeat command. So the first time you still have to run a vim repeat command with a text object, but I'm hoping to fix that in later versions of the plugin. So in this last part I just wanted to take a few minutes and jump around a bit and show some examples of this plugin in use. Sadly, because I am working at a proprietary project in my day-to-day work, I don't really have the time to look for good examples that I can actually share with you. So I'm basically hoping this is good enough to give you an idea. But so for example, one thing I could do, I could say that I wanted to, in this test file now, that I want to, on all the test underscore lines, which is basically each test case, I want to add a new fixture. I could say, I do something like this. I say I want to find the end of the braces and add a new fixture name. Let's say it's called the fixture, and I could add that to all the lines. Another thing I could quite easily do would be to quickly just show all the functions in this file. I would go up to the top of the file, run the v command, jump down, look for def, and delete, and I'll get all the defs to quickly just see what functions do I actually have in this file at the moment. And then if I wanted to somehow export these for some reason, I could say now that I wanted to, the easiest way to do that would be to first have these in one, and of course I'm sometimes should just use normal vim commands instead of trying to run normal mode for everything. But then once it's all tabbed in like this, I can just run a normal command, delete the first word, find the braces, and delete the rest. And say I now wanted this in a list somehow, I could then, then I would go up, add braces around it with vim surround, and then inside now this list, I could say I want to go word and wrap the word with strings, and then go to the end and add a comma like that, and then turn it into a list. So things like that are quite useful. Another thing can be if you wanted for some reason to change the orders of commands or arguments. For example, I have this files thing here. Let's say I now chose that in my CSV file, this is a normal CSV file, let's say I now decided that I want to change the columns between the second and third. What I could then do is I could say that on the top here, on all lines in this paragraph, I can say I want to find the first comma, go word, delete to the next comma, go left one step, Control V, and in order to do a control sequence or an alt sequence or the escape or any kind of special character, you need to escape those with Control V in your command. So I do Control V in this case. If I want to do escape, I would do Control V escape. If I wanted to do enter, I would Control V enter, because otherwise, of course, you would already submit. And so that lets me then select, and then I go until the end of the line, paste, find back to the comma, and paste again. And that allows me, if you see here, that now I've switched the argument on all those lines. And you can imagine if this would have been a actual code-based file, probably you would have done this in a G command and match on a specific function name. And it's quite nice because this kind of stuff, once you dip your toe into this, it gets a lot easier to use functions like cfdo or cdo to run a normal command across multiple files or buffers if you would use buffdo. And so there's so much you can do once you get used to this way of working. And for me, the big barrier to using this has always been the fact that there's so much typing, and that's what this plugin was aimed to solve. I hope this demonstration has been helpful for you, and I would appreciate any kind of feedback, even if the feedback is that it's all very confusing still and you would like help to understand, or maybe that you have a much more efficient way to do this. I would be very interested to hear it all. Thank you so much for your time.